All right, it's the end of the session. I am here without Pootie. Pootie is over there sleeping or just chilling in one of her favorite spots. A-Town is we're calling that spot. And this is her roadmap to success. Now, she is a dog. She was found at like 1 day old on the streets. And so she's got, is that correct?
She was found when she was already an adult. So
okay.
About a year, I think they said a year or two old.
But she was basically a street dog or whatever it was. She had pups, she was pregnant, they didn't even realize she was pregnant. So she is just very leery of people she doesn't know. Some dogs she likes to play with, some dogs she likes to bark at. And so I think a lot of her issues are an insecurity and a lack of self-control and also a little bit of ambiguity of where her place is in her current environment. So the first thing we went over was marker words to remove some of that cloud so she understands the things. The marker word is a word that we use to indicate the dog did what I wanted. We say at the instant the dog did it, or at the end of the act if the act has time. The video above, I talked about having the dog stay for duration, or for distractions, but with duration to it. So if I say stay, I do a bunch of like 20 seconds of that, well, then I'm helping the dog practice up that 20-second mark. So the idea is to go very progressive and slow. And I would say the marker word at the end of that 20 seconds to communicate that staying for that long was what I wanted. Then I'm going to follow it up by a reinforcer, which could be a pet, a treat, something that she likes. So make sure that when she does it, you're either, if she's sitting, I'm saying thanks as soon as her butt hits the ground, I'm getting a treat in her mouth within 2 seconds. I want to say the marker word a maximum of 2 seconds afterwards, but really it should come at the moment that she does it or slightly after. Now, after a while, then we will start sneaking in a cue. When I'm 90% certain that I can get her to do whatever it is, I'm lowering into a sit, I get her a sit, not thanks, sit over here, thanks, sit over here, thanks, sit over here, thanks, then I say sit and lure her into sit and say thanks. So now I'm saying them together. And after a while, when I say sit, she sits, I can just give her the treat. Eventually, I can drop saying thanks, because the thanks is giving her the reason we say thanks is so she knows what I want. Well, if I say sit and she sits, then she knows. I don't have to continue using it, and then I can drop it at that point. Now, I showed the guardians how to do a loading exercise. She's going to sleep, I said after I left, but she's sleeping now. So wait about an hour, and then you guys practice. One of you practices with a clicker, one of you guys practice with the marker word, which in her case is thanks. And practice a lot of variety. And you want to do that until the click or the thanks gets her like looking around for a treat. And at that point, you can stop doing that exercise. Then we're just going to use it. Every time she does the thing we want, we say nice and then pet or give her a treat. We also went over, hand targeting. If you forgot how to do that, message me. But practice that one because you saw how that was going to interact with me. If she does it well with you, you know, friends come over or people on the street, she comes over and touches them, and it's a good way of indicating whether or not she's comfortable enough coming up closer enough to touch that person or not. If she doesn't, that's totally cool too. That just means, and then take a note of what that person looked like, what they were wearing, do they have a baby stroller. Try to look for the elements and the thing that she doesn't feel comfortable with, recreate that with a friend and build that confidence up. Before I forget, there's a video right above this one with Jack Russell Terrier or a Parsons Russell Terrier and just a mutt puppy. And I went over the a counter conditioning exercise, which you guys can use for sounds. If you have questions on that, text me. I really would like you to focus on the stuff we went over in our session first and start working on that in about 2 or 3 weeks. And if you have questions on that, let me know. But I think that we went through so much. I really want you guys to delve deeply into that first than trying to do 10% of this and 10% of that and not really make any progress. All right, so hand targeting is a great way. Get that condition and then use that to manipulate her. You can use an alternative recall and eventually get her to engage and interact with guests. Remember, we went over the signs of consent. I have a video for that. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. I'm happy to share that with you as well. Don't ever force her to meet someone. If she turns away, lowers her head, or won't come to them. And remember, use the ringworm excuse if you really get in a stuck. And then keep, like I said, a journal or in your notes doc or whatever it is of whatever the attributes are of the people. And then you can start recreating that, looking for your friends that emulate some of those things and practice. Use the counter conditioning or desensitization techniques to help her get over that. We also mentioned the positive interrupter. So you can either make a kissing sound like, or you can say beep, 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 or puppy, puppy, puppy. And high-pitched voice and a cadence of 3 or 4 times in a row usually is a way of getting the dog to come to you. Also, if I want to get the dog to come to me, I don't think I'll be able to do it here, but I can kind of go like this. She's looking at me. I pretend like I have a treat. I put up my hand and I pantomime. The lower you go, the more it's for the dog. Let me go off to the side, which is more approachable. Nope, she's not going to come for it. Now I could probably drop one here, and she sees it, and there was some movement there, so she's going to come for that. So lowering your hand, and I'll show you here. Can you see her in the shot? You don't have to change it. Don't worry about it. So I lower my hand. That gets her to come over to me. Now she's going, I think that's a little bit more the submissiveness there. But you can lower your hand often will get the dog to come over to you. All right, so positive interrupter is what we do if she's starting to do something like, say she's whimpering at the window, she make the positive interrupter, she looks at us, we throw a hand target, she comes over, and then we give her something else to do. Let me see, we also went over petting with a purpose and passive and celebrating. Remember, petting with a purpose, if you would like to pet her, or if she's asking or telling you to pet her, you're gonna tell her to sit. If she, only one time if she does it, then say your marker word and pet her. If she doesn't do it, go back to doing something else and show her, I'm not mad at you, there's no punishment, but you don't get the reward. After a while, she'll start sitting in front of you to prepay for the attention. When she does, make sure you say your marker word and pet her. And then use the watchword of manners. If you come in and see somebody's petting her and she's not sitting or laying down, then they say manners. I tell her stop. I tell her to sit. If she sits within 2 seconds, I say thanks. Then pet her on her chin. Then I can explain to my partner, hey, when you came in from dancing, she stood up and I continued petting her, but thanks for reminding me. So that's if you want to pet her, she's asking or telling you to pet her. And this, again, think of this as teaching her to say please or thank you, sitting down in front of you to say, please, can you pet me? So when she comes up and nudges you, she's saying, hey, pet me, damn it. Would you like to ask again? Sit. Yes, please pet me. Yeah, yes, we do. And we're teaching her manners. Now we also make sure we're doing the flip side of that, and that's that celebrating the behaviors, the things we want. Remember, any attention is validating. So if she barks and we say no, barking is a great way, the most consistent way to get my guardian's attention. And as a dog, I don't care if it's good attention or bad attention. But instead, if she's barking, and as long as it's not too intense, if it's really intense, the positive interrupter won't help. But if it's pretty low and I hit, and she looks at me and then I threw the hand target, she comes over, we practice a little bit of a game. Now she's forgotten about whatever it is, and I've redirected her and I give her a bully stick or something else to deal with. All right, we also went over the importance of exercise. She's a lower energy dog, but I like to see the guardians alternating between physical exercise and mental stimulation about every 4 hours for her. But you can also do more exercise before, like she's going to the vet, right? Mm-hmm. So do the tenting exercise. Go to her butt, gently pinch her skin together, hold it for a half second, say thanks, and give her a treat. And then eventually get to the point where you're holding it 2 seconds, 3 seconds. So you're doing this and preparing her. So when you go to the vet does that and gives her a shot, and you say thanks, and you give her a treat. She's warmed up to that activity. Use the watch for physical exercise, sniffing on walks, playing fetch if she's in the mood. Let me see, getting a weighted backpack, provided your vet is okay with that. Throwing treats around and having her just go and chase the treats, it's not a bad thing to do. So those are physical forms of exercise. Play date is a wonderful form of exercise. So if she's got buddies, I would try to recreate that social experience so she can go play in somebody's yard. It's a nice way to socialize. We get more confident when we get more social practice and experience. It also drains energy. There's a lot of benefits to it. So I would try to shoot for getting her 1 play date a week if you can, and really build on that. Give her something to look forward to, some fun stuff in her life. It's heavy around here for her. So let's give her some stuff that she really enjoys. Let me see, then there's also mental stimulation. Feeding out of a snuffle mat, getting an Omega Paw Tricky Trainer treat ball, getting other puzzle toys, getting a Kong filled with peanut butter, getting a lick mat, letting her lick that. Those are things, a way to burn energy as well. Training is a wonderful way to burn energy. You're going to be doing a lot of training with the desensitization and the stay practice in the video above. Don't discount that. That's hard work for her, especially when you're actually leaving. And so work on, let me see what else. Scent games, Google scent games and find some scent games you can do. Do that cookie in the corner where you're throwing the treats and you're saying search or hunt or whatever the word was, and you're marking. And so the idea is to come up with a rhythm where we're doing it about every 4 hours. She's getting a little bit, but again, before we go to the vet, she gets a walk and then 10 minutes to recover, and then we go to the vet. The person's coming over, we do cookie in the corner and then some training and some scent games, and then they come over. Now, when I first showed up, that's exercise, and we'll get to rules in a second, but when I first showed up, we did that treat trail. I'd like you to do that treat trail once or twice a day, different times a day, and do it when there's not a lot of craziness out there, and just do it so she gets used to that, going around that corner. There's a small treat, and then eventually when you have one of your friends come over, have your friends sit the same way that I was, have the treat trail there, they have a bunch of treats. Once she comes and gets them, have them offer the treat, one treat in my hand, to the side. Don't turn and look at her, don't talk to her, don't tell her to sit. Have your friend watch this segment and say, all I want you to do is just hold your hand out. All she has to do is, if she takes the treat, that's what we're looking for. And do that a couple times. If she don't want to take the treat, have the person throw the treat away from her. So she moves away, further away, and gets that treat. When they get up, have them rock it up into a crouching position. Then give her a couple treats, and then toss another one away and get up, and then stand up. Have her come back and offering the treats out to the side and not in front. And I'm not leaning over the dog. That's very confrontational, front facing. Speaking of body language, good stretch. I taught my dad to stretch that way by celebrating. Every time he stretched, I said, yes, and petted him, and I saw he was about to start doing it. I'd say stretch, and he would, like, I could get him to stretch and waggle his butt 10 times in a row. Let's talk about dog body language. See, the mouth on this dog is open. When dogs are trying to cool down, they open their mouth to let liquid evaporate off their tongue, and sometimes when it's really hot, they open their mouth wider. We perceive this as a smile. So when our dog gets a little bit aroused for something, and we're picking up the leash, and then we see the mouth go, oh, you want to go walking, and then we wonder why they can't listen. We get them all jacked up. So instead, we want to practice them being the activity nice and calm and relaxed. Now for this body language, if you see her mouth going from this to a closed mouth and getting still, that's a really big warning. You should take note of your surroundings and move her away from whatever it is that she doesn't like. I look at the dog's overall body mechanic. First thing I do is I look at, does the dog look tense, stiff, or what I like to call wiggly and jiggly? Dogs should normally be wiggly and jiggly. So I'm wiggly and jiggly, and all of a sudden I get to a closed mouth and a stiff, and I hold my breath. That's a big warning. We are oblivious to this, but if you recognize that and you move her away from something, she doesn't have to lunge or bark or do anything because you're managing and providing her a safe environment. So I look at the overall tenseness of the body. Then I look for the legs. Are the legs underneath the dog, or is one of the legs way over here? Are they leaning forward or back? So that's an indication for how they feel. Tail, is it going up, straight, and stiff? That's flying the flag. That's being alert and kind of on ready to do stuff. Wagging, very quickly quivering, not necessarily a great thing. If this is the dog's spine and this is the dog's head, we'd like to see the tail for her kind of going like this. Kind of this is neutral. We'd like to see it waving in the middle. If it's up and waving, that's more alerting in that sort of family. If it's down and tucked, that's like almost phallic. That's a clear indication she's uncomfortable. She's trying to literally cover her anus with her tail. That's why the tail does that. So if I see that she is really tense, well, then I'm not going to have somebody meet her for the first time or whatever it is. If I see her feet are leaning away or her body's leaning away, so she's telling me I'm uncomfortable. Then I look at the ears. Now her ears, she has little terrier ears, if you ask me. But if they're like this, that's pretty neutral. And when she was feeling accommodating, kind of humble, they kind of went off to the side and they opened up. The inside of the ears facing forward. When she was uncomfortable, they're kind of going more back. A little bit more dominant or aggressive, might be a little bit raising forward. By themselves, I'm not going to look just the ears. I'm looking at the body language, the tenseness, the breathing. Is she holding her breath? Is she panting? Or is she breathing at a normal rate? Heavy breathing, it can be an indication of stress or anxiety. Then I look at the head. Is the head up and the nose up, or is the head down? Is she looking at me and staring at me directly, or is she looking away and won't look at me? That's called avoidance. Is she licking her lips? Do I see a lot of white in her eyes? So what I usually recommend my clients do is look at your dog like when she's neutral, when she's at home and relaxed. And look at her, how she carries her head. Look at how she carries her ears, her tail, her breathing, her body language, all the rest of that fun stuff. And once you can read her neutral, then when you take her somewhere and she gets excited, look for differences. What are her ears doing now? What is her tail doing now? What is her feet? Where is her breathing? Once we learn to read this, we talked about this off camera, dogs are great at reading us, we suck at reading them. If we can learn to read them and we can get her out of a situation before she needs to, she feels confident and secure in our ability to provide her with a great environment. Okay, we also talked about rules. Some of the rules I would recommend is not being allowed in the kitchen when we're preparing food, not being allowed in the straight line on the carpet here when we're eating food here. Use those Premax, sit at the door to go in or out. Sit before you start preparing your food. Sit before you put the food down. I forgot about the snuffle mat. Make sure you get a snuffle mat because that's a great way to burn energy. Let me see, what else? And look for other opportunities for rules. You have to sit quietly before I put the leash on. You have to sit, even though I open the door, you have to wait for the door to be open and me to say, let's go. The guardians here do a great job. Every time you start walking, say, let's go. So that's a cue. Let's go means we're moving. So look for other rules that you can incorporate, not just to incorporate rules, but to have her practice. Have her sit here and wait for permission to eat that food. And then when you do it, say lasagna or sushi. She comes over and eats it, and that becomes the command cue. But what are we doing? We're helping her practice a little self-control with a reward that she really wants. Or we're asking her to sit before we open the door or go for a walk. If she likes going for a walk, that's a great thing for her as well. For walks, if it's too busy, look for a park or somewhere that's nearby where you can walk in a big open space. If you do want her to meet another dog and she doesn't go off well right away, take them for a walk together. We call it a parallel walk. You might have to, so human, dogs on the outside, you might have to have the humans pretty far away at first, but as we're walking, over the course of a couple walks, we can gradually get closer and closer. And eventually it's human, dogs on the outside. We don't make them play with each other. They can see each other, smell each other, hear each other. They practice walking, they practice communally. They're like, we both would have kicked that squirrel's ass if we weren't on the leash. And so they have that joined experience. And then after a couple walks, they might be interested in playing with each other, just kind of like us. We go on a couple dates and we get to know the person and we decide, I don't like that person. Well, that's what the girls say to me. But the idea is we get to know them and find, are they somebody that elevates me and that I have my verve with them, or no, it's just not the right vibe or doesn't click. She's really hot, but doesn't do it for, that's fine. She's not going to like every dog that she meets. But we would like to expand her circle of friends so that she has some friends that are here instead of having to drive up to the 415 to have that play date. And remember, that's a great way to burn energy. I'd like to have you guys work on this stuff for about a month. Now, I am not a veterinary behavior, so I cannot prescribe medication, but I think she would be a great candidate for fluoxetine, which is doggy Prozac. She needs to be on it about 4 to 6 weeks before it starts to take effect. And remember, when she's on it, make sure you work with your vet about it because she's dopey. They might need to adjust the dosage a little bit. And then once she has clear cortisol in her blood, I think she has PTSD. So if we get her on some medication and help her bring that level of anxiety down, we make all the changes we talked about in this video, maybe hopefully after a couple months on the fluoxetine and the Prozac, she feels more confident, she gets in a new, more positive behavior pattern, then we gradually wean her off under our always under the vet's direction of weaning them off. And then eventually she might be past all these things, or at least substantially better, or it might be a situation to take her off. Oh my God, she was doing better before. Well, then we put her back on the meds. And so we want to find whatever the best situation for her is. Trying to think, is there anything else you want me to go over?
No, I think that you about covered it.
Okay. Like I said, I wouldn't mind coming back in a month and working with her on like some engaged, disengaged games. Like we talked about go to a park or somewhere and have her reward looking at people as they pass by and create that a positive experience, or condition her to look back at us for treats or different things along those lines. And on walks, remember, every time she looks at you, have that treat, and if she looks at you, thanks, and hold the treat out. She practices coming back to you. Every time she gets to the end of the leash, make that positive interrupter sound, but have a treat first. She looks around, and hold that treat and start lowering it. She comes right over to you. Yeah, I saw you looking. Oh, you're going to come over? I will definitely reward that. That's a little bit more submissive. She's kind of coming over, and she was creeping on her side. Yeah. She kind of hunched over. She looked uncomfortable, very, I'm not worthy sort of mechanic. So I just offered her a treat there. I don't want to necessarily pet that because I'm not going to reinforce an emotional state of mind. But I'd rather have her doing stuff, and that's why I mentioned petting under the chin as opposed to petting on top of the head. I want her to feel good about sitting, laying down. So pet here, 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 here. I think one of the guardians get the T-Touch or Tellington book on dog relaxation techniques and how to pet your dog. I think that'd be really beneficial for her. You're doing a great job giving eye contact. If you have, so let me know in a couple weeks how things are going. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Don't wait a couple weeks. Let me know right away. But in a couple weeks, if things are going well, let me know, and we can set up a 1-hour follow-up session and work on getting her to engage, disengage, or pay more attention to you on walks or whatever it is. We can build on our progress. All right. One sec. Come here. This is my buddy Pootie, and this is Pootie's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.